McLaren just blocked critical telemetry from Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri during practice in Abu Dhabi. Within hours, the FIA launched a full-scale investigation into their data systems and car setup parameters. Could this lead to disqualifications, grid penalties, or even change the outcome of the Drivers' Championship? Subscribe now because this isn't just a performance story anymore. It's turning into a regulatory showdown on the final race weekend of the year. The tension in Abu Dhabi went from silent to seismic in the span of a single technical report. While the grandstands focused on lap times, the real drama unfolded behind closed doors. The FIA quietly confirmed it had launched a formal investigation into McLaren after the team reportedly restricted access to crucial telemetry data from both of its cars. Not just from Oscar Piastri, who sat out FP1, but also from Lando Norris, who topped the timesheets in both sessions. What should have been a routine engineering process now carries championship consequences. At the heart of the controversy is what the FIA calls incomplete data transmission, a term that, in Formula One, is never used lightly. The governing body requested detailed telemetry relating to torque delivery, rear suspension loads, and hybrid energy deployment from both McLaren cars following FP2. But according to senior sources, McLaren delayed sharing full datasets, citing ongoing internal analysis. That alone was enough to trigger suspicion. Because in a sport built on trust and timing, withholding information even briefly can raise the question, what is being hidden? Timing could not be worse. With just 1 day left before qualifying, Lando Norris is in prime position to win his first Formula One title. He has the pace, the car, and track position. But now, legal uncertainty clouds every corner. If the FIA determines that McLaren's data restriction interfered with the regulatory process or worse, concealed an irregularity, then Norris' title chances could be in jeopardy. The rulebook is clear: all car and driver telemetry must be made available upon request, without delay or filtering. Anything less is a breach. The situation deepens because Oscar Piastri's car appears to be central to the probe. After missing FP1 due to McLaren's rookie program, Piastri reported inconsistent brake feel and rear instability throughout FP2. The feedback raised technical eyebrows. Was his setup identical to Norris? Was he running a different energy deployment profile? And if so, why wasn't the data immediately available to verify it? The FIA is now believed to be comparing torque output across both cars to look for discrepancies and potential breaches of Article 9.4.7 of the Sporting Code. Inside the McLaren garage, the tone shifted noticeably after FP2. Team spokespeople confirmed the investigation but insisted all data would be submitted in accordance with standard timelines. Yet the phrasing sounded more legal than technical. McLaren did not deny the delay. They simply reframed it. That distinction matters. In an era of real-time data transfer and full transparency, any sign of hesitation is interpreted as deliberate shielding. And with a world title hanging in the balance, even perception becomes a weapon. For Red Bull and Max Verstappen, the development is both unexpected and potentially decisive. Verstappen finished second in both sessions, 3/10 behind Norris, and knew he needed something extraordinary to turn the championship back in his favor. Now, that something may come from the stewards, not the stopwatch. Red Bull has not filed a protest. They do not need to. The FIA acted first, which makes this all the more serious. An active investigation during a title-deciding weekend is not routine. It's rare and often decisive. All eyes now turn to the FIA's next move. Will this remain a quiet technical review, or erupt into a full-scale regulatory case? The answer will shape how this weekend plays out. If the data clears McLaren, they move forward as favorites. But if anything in that telemetry suggests irregular behavior, the consequences could be historic. For now, the lap times are frozen, but the story is accelerating. Lando Norris began Friday in dominant form, immediately stamping his pace on the Abu Dhabi circuit. In FP1, despite changing track conditions and heavier fuel loads, he posted a time of 1 minute, 24 seconds and 485 thousandths. It wasn't just the fastest time of the session, it was a statement lap, clean in all three sectors, with minimal corrections at corner entry and full throttle application out of the hotel section. The car was balanced, sharp on turn-in, and visibly stable through the low-speed transitions that typically unsettle most cars under race simulation load. Oscar Piastri was notably absent during that session, sidelined for the team's young driver program. While routine, the absence left Piastri at a disadvantage in setup familiarity. When he rejoined in FP2, his lack of mileage was evident. He struggled for balance and grip, particularly on medium tires, where his early run times drifted into the 1 minute, 30-second range. He later admitted over radio that he was fighting the rear on every exit, especially between turns 11 and 14. The onboard footage confirmed its snap oversteer, delayed throttle, and inconsistent steering response. In contrast, Norris extended his authority in FP2. On soft tires and low fuel, he delivered a best lap of 1 minute, 23 seconds, and 83 thousandths. That put him over 3/10 clear of Max Verstappen and a full second ahead of his teammate. What stood out was not just the lap time, but the repeatability. On his following push lap, Norris matched Sector 1 and 2 again before lifting slightly in traffic. The car was consistent. In modern Formula 1, consistency under varying conditions is usually a sign that the mechanical and aerodynamic setup is perfectly aligned. Max Verstappen, meanwhile, was working harder for less reward. His soft tire qualifying simulations hovered just behind Norris, still fast, but less planted. The RB21 looked edgy in Turn 5 and through the chicane into Turn 9, where Verstappen radioed, still sliding on the rear. He followed that up by asking for brake bias adjustments and diff map changes, trying to stabilize the car without compromising rotation. His best lap 1 minute, 23 seconds, and 446 thousandths was clean, but the data showed minor corrections in every low-speed exit. Norris had the margin. Verstappen was chasing it. Long-run simulations began with both title protagonists on medium tires. Norris again held the upper hand. His first 5 laps stayed between 1 minute, 29.1 and 1 minute, 29.4. Verstappen started in the 29s as well but dropped into the low 30-second bracket by lap 5. The degradation on the RB21 was clear. Rear thermal buildup appeared faster, and Sector 3 lap delta increased as the run continued. Red Bull made minor tweaks mid-run, but the fundamental loss of rear grip remained. In a race scenario, that could cost Verstappen 4 to 5 seconds over a stint. Piastri's long runs were even more concerning for McLaren, not because of pace, but because of unpredictability. His lap times varied wildly, and feedback over radio hinted at brake consistency issues. He noted inconsistent pedal feel between high-speed and low-speed zones, and his race engineer confirmed offsets in braking trace data, something that could easily correlate with the missing telemetry now under FIA scrutiny. Whether it's a mechanical issue or a mapping discrepancy, that's precisely the kind of irregularity that raises eyebrows inside race control. Taken together, the raw pace picture is clear. Norris is leading on both the stopwatch and car stability. Verstappen is second, within striking distance, but visibly managing a narrower setup window. Piastri is out of sync, off pace, and now possibly caught in a technical investigation that could implicate both cars. In terms of numbers, Norris holds the edge. But in Formula 1, pace is only one piece of the puzzle. What the FIA uncovers from that block data could change the weight of every lap turned so far. The current controversy surrounding McLaren doesn't stem from performance, it stems from what the FIA didn't see. In modern Formula 1, every car movement is translated into data: throttle position, brake pressure, torque output, energy deployment. That data is sent in real time to the team, and upon request, to the FIA. What triggered the investigation wasn't a protest or a visible infraction, it was a delay. A pause in McLaren's full telemetry handover. Specifically, the torque map profiles from both Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri's cars were flagged as pending submission. In a title-deciding weekend, that detail matters more than ever. Torque mapping, especially in hybrid-era F1, defines how the car translates engine and electric power into acceleration. Each track requires custom calibration, balancing deployment curves with corner exit traction. The FIA inspects this data closely to prevent what they call non-linear power delivery, a sign that a team might be using the power unit to create an artificial advantage in traction zones. That's why, when the maps from both McLaren cars weren't available on time, red flags went up. Not because a rule was clearly broken, but because the absence itself disrupted the oversight process. Behind the scenes, the MCL39's performance has been consistently impressive under throttle. Observers noted that Norris could apply power earlier than Verstappen out of Turn 7 and Turn 14 without any visible rear instability. While this could simply reflect superior mechanical grip or aerodynamic efficiency, engineers from rival teams suggested the car's behavior was unusually planted, even for a well-balanced setup. Without full access to torque profiles and hybrid deployment overlays, the FIA cannot definitively separate brilliance from breach. That's precisely why the delay is under investigation. It obstructs clarity. Adding complexity is Piastri's situation. His feedback in FP2 indicated inconsistent brake behavior and late-onset understeer symptoms that can stem from irregular power delivery or imperfect balance in the rear suspension system. His comments over team radio included phrases like "rear just steps mid-exit" and "something's biting under braking." If those symptoms relate to an experimental torque map or a non-standard energy recovery configuration, and if the team failed to declare that setup to the FIA in real time, it could be classified as an unapproved deviation. Even if unintentional, that places McLaren in regulatory gray territory. Red Bull, for their part, has kept quiet publicly, but internally, they've already reconstructed McLaren's lap traces using GPS and visual overlays. Their engineering group noted the difference in throttle-on rotation between the MCL39 and the RB21 through Sector 3. Verstappen, while incredibly precise, had to compensate with brake bias changes and mid-corner throttle modulation to stabilize his car. Norris, meanwhile, appeared to flow through the same corners with fewer inputs and less rear-end correction. That kind of comparative behavior is exactly what prompts data audits. The technical codes governing car telemetry are strict. Under Appendix 4 of the technical regulations, teams are obligated to provide unfiltered telemetry upon request. Delayed submission due to internal review is not an acceptable defense unless formally pre-approved. McLaren's decision to delay appears to have been procedural, not malicious, but intent matters less than outcome in regulatory review. Even a small data obstruction can be interpreted as interference with the FIA's ability to verify legality. That's why the wording of their official response, submitted in accordance with standard timelines, is being scrutinized line by line. From a purely engineering standpoint, the MCL39 may very well be operating within legal bounds. The torque mapping delay could be innocent, the result of a calibration review, or a software glitch. But in Formula One, the timing of transparency is as important as the transparency itself. A delay during a weekend this consequential opens the door to suspicion. And when a world title hangs in the balance, even one missing data packet can turn the outcome of an entire season.